think you're playing football? Do you think you're playing football? Do you think you're playing football? You are showing me nothing.
Yeah. Hey. They tell the truth. How you settle in? Your team is veterans. So how you cope with where you sit this season? Better spin, better rhetoric. A tale as great as teams have been. I ask the question of you now to see the thoughts you spin. Fan base fiasco. Don't think that I'm irrational. My team better than your team, and that's just facts, bro. We've been examples. Don't think this year don't mean much. This legacy you talking about. Let me tell you about my team, son.
Hello and welcome to the Fourth Down Fiasco. We are back with our off-season segment, Fanbase Fiasco. If you liked our intro song, that is from Cam Hayden. You can find his music on Apple Music and Spotify, and you can buy his book, Working on the Process, on Amazon. With us is our Seahawks correspondent, Tyler Dobson. Say hello to the people, Tyler.
Hey guys, happy to be here. Thanks for having me on.
Of course, we're happy to have you. So, we're going to kick this off in a little bit more of an unconventional manner. Usually we do a type of baiting statement to get you riled up and make you want to attack the host. But this time, you watched your divisional rival just lose the Super Bowl, so let's have you gloat a little bit. So how good does it feel to have watched the 49ers lose 3 Super Bowls in your lifetime?
No, I think it feels really good, to be honest, especially my dad, he's from the Bay Area, so he didn't quite brainwash me to be a 49ers fan. But no, it feels good to know that the Seahawks still have the most recent Super Bowl win.
Somehow, yeah.
Somehow, yeah. They've made it a few more times.
Between those two.
Yeah.
It would be Rams, right?
No, yeah, Rams in 20.
But I mean, we got Seahawks have been there 3 times recently. We got kind of screwed over in 2006. I don't want to talk about that. And then the rest is history.
Yeah, don't bring up 2006 in front of Tanner.
Yeah. It's a good year for him,
man.
Yeah, it's
All right. To deviate from from the tomfoolery, how did you become a fan of the Seahawks?
Yeah, no, I mean, I grew up in Seattle, and so for the most part, the Seahawks are usually like the happy team to be a fan of because they actually would win games. But just kind of being in from Seattle, just kind of being the hometown, just cheering for all the sports teams that come out of there, good or bad, mostly bad. But so it's kind of it for that.
No love for the Mariners.
I mean, I love them. I love them, but this offseason's been a little anticlimactic.
It's okay. Danny and I both root for shitty baseball teams too.
Yeah, it's okay. I'm from Cincinnati, so I don't got much to root for.
Oh. At least we both got to root for Ken Griffey.
That's true. About a good player, who was your favorite player to watch during your lifetime?
As far as Seahawks, definitely. I mean, there's a lot. I'd honestly probably say Cam Chancellor, only because I felt like he was really exciting. It's sad that his career was as short as it was, but I feel like if you YouTube any big hit compilation, you're gonna find so many clips of just him in there, just killing people. And I mean, that was just during the era, of Legion of Boom. There's a lot of big hits going on, like Michael Thomas, Earl Thomas, not Michael Thomas. But just Richard Sherman, all of them. It's a good time to be a fan.
That defense was terrifying.
Yeah, I mean, you saw it firsthand with that Broncos Super Bowl. I think what it was 40 something to 7.
Yeah, something stupid.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Cam Chancellor is your favorite that you've seen play. Who is someone you wish you could have seen play? Someone before you were born.
For I was born, that's a good question because I mean the Seahawks organization it's not the oldest organization. I think they've been around since 76. And I feel like a lot of their success has honestly been while I've been alive. I know most people will probably say like Steve Largent or someone along those lines, great wide receiver. But to be honest, like, I mean, I liked football when I was a kid. I might go with someone that I was alive, but I was too young to like appreciate. Would be like Sean Alexander. Like, I felt like he was really good, and took us to the Super Bowl. And I watched the Super Bowl, I watched the games, but I didn't necessarily know everything that was going on. But looking back, like, I felt like I really could have appreciated it if I was watching it at this point in time.
It's a fair pick.
Yeah.
I mean, those early thousands running backs, I mean, it was a different breed of game. I mean, you had LT, Sean Alexander, Priest Holmes. You had all those guys at the same time. Jamal Lewis, Jamal Charles.
Clinton Portis.
Terrell Davis towards there.
Jerome Bettis.
Jerome Bettis was early thousands as well.
Yeah. Corey Dillon.
Yeah, Corey Dillon.
There was that early 2000s draft class, absurd.
Just felt like a bunch of angry runners, like they just
just big guys that wanted to kill people.
Mm-hmm.
So let's move into a little bit more modern, right? So what was your favorite moment of this season?
I wish there were more. This season was like a really weird one because as far as like, in the off season, we put a lot of emphasis on improving our defense. The year before, we had some new people like Tariq Woolen, and we had the hopes of Jamal Adams coming back the next year, and just we had some young studs, even like Nwosu on the line, and like we were starting to find our way. And then fast forward to this year, we picked up Devin Witherspoon and some others, and it seemed like it was good. And so this year started weird just because I think for like the first 6 weeks of the season, we were one of the top defenses, and then somehow we shot directly to the bottom. Like we were, I think, 31st in the defense by the end of the year. We were averaging, I mean, by week 18, we averaged like 160 yards rushing alone a game, and our last 3 games of the season, it was 190 yards. Wow. Like it felt like we had like crossed over at the beginning of the season. And the weird part about it is like we didn't have any like ginormous injuries. Like we had 1 or 2 that were impactful, but our key players, didn't get injured. But I don't know what happened, to be honest. That's why it's a little exciting to see, so much coaching changes, because I feel like we have the talent. We have young talent too. And so finding the right person to, utilize it the best will be really good for us, I think.
Yeah.
Well, let's kind of skip ahead a little bit for where we were going. Just kind of talking about that. You almost had like a tale of 2 seasons, right? You had a really strong early season, and then it kind of fell apart towards the end. Who do you think was most responsible for the collapse? Because he said it really wasn't an injury problem.
No, I mean, we lost some people, but for like, in my opinion, because you go back 2 years ago, we had Woolen, and Woolen, in my opinion, was close to Defensive Rookie of the Year, second to Sauce, who don't want to get into that. I think was better that year. But fast forward to last year, and Woolen is really good in man-to-man, very good into that, but he had a huge tackling problem to the point where we actually benched him for a little bit. And I wish I could pull up the clip, but there's a clip even of like him coming to like an assist in a tackle, and all he does is knock our guy off the guy or the runner, and the runner ends up getting 20 more yards. And it's just like tackling for him has been like a huge problem. I don't want to like blame everything on him, but like
you can't have a shutdown corner who can't tackle,
Yeah, like they're not going to run man. Like if they know that, they're going to just exploit you, and it seemed like he got exploited, and I think that one hurt the most because he had so much hype behind him and potential, and then something like tackling is his weak point. I don't know, hit the weight room. I don't know. Like
yeah. If the ball's in the air, he's great. If it's if it's in the hands, a whole different story.
Yeah, exactly. That's what it felt like, and I think if he can figure that out, I think we probably have the best, cornerback duo in the league between him and Witherspoon, because Witherspoon was phenomenal last year, honestly.
Yeah.
But if he can kind of tighten up some of those problems, I think we're looking pretty good.
Yeah. You touched briefly about you'll be curious what happens with a new coach what the new coach does. How do you feel about Mike Macdonald's potential to be a franchise coach?
I think me and most of the Seahawks, fans are very optimistic. I think the offseason, when you have so many changes during an offseason, generally it can bring a lot of skepticism, but for the most part, I feel like we've been seeing a lot of optimism, to be honest. Like, I mean, if you think about it, we went from, the youngest or the oldest coaches in the league to the youngest coaches in the league, and sometimes people were thinking that Pete Carroll was getting pretty predictable and maybe running some pretty old school stuff. And I felt that a little bit, because if you look at our division, we're playing against, Kyle Shanahan. We're playing against, what's his name?
Sean McVay.
Sean McVay. And like some of these younger coaches who are a little more, they got an imagination with their playbook, and they do a lot of more fun, maybe trick plays or just formations and all that. And it felt like we never really did that. I felt like we kind of stuck to the same formula constantly, which it worked back when we had Legion of Boom and we had just an all-star team, but doesn't when you do. So I think we're all pretty happy with the new coach, and especially, coming off this last season for him, he led the Ravens to where they went in the playoffs, and they were like the top 3, the third best defense in the league. And I think that'll be really good for us, because I felt having a defensive-minded coach could be good with all the young talent that we currently have. And I don't think our stats necessarily reflect the talent that we have. So I'm really excited about it.
I think Tanner and I can both thank you for taking that defensive coordinator away from the AFC North.
Yeah, right. And you kind of brought up a good point there with going from like the oldest regime in the league to one of the younger regimes in the league. At a certain point, yes, it was great during the Legion of Boom era, because that was the way the game was played about 10 years ago, right?
Yeah.
But the way defense is played nowadays and the way offense is played is drastically different than it was played in 2013, 2014.
Exactly.
And it's hard for a lot of those things to keep up. And again, the Steelers kind of have a very archaic identity on both offense and defense. That's a lot of the frustration that I get, is watching a team that doesn't want to adapt and change with the newer version of the NFL. Because if you look at the Ravens specifically, they have one of the most unique defensive systems of any team. And I think they're going to bring a lot of that to the Seahawks. You're going to have a lot of smaller guys. You're going to rely more on your linebackers. You're going to prioritize speed over power. And that's why they're so dominant. And if you can bring that to the Seahawks, I mean, you could see a revitalization of a dominant defense again.
For sure.
Yeah.
That's what I'm hoping for. So
it's still crazy to think that the Legion of Boom was like 10 years ago. It doesn't feel that long ago.
Yeah, I guess that is crazy. And then
that's weird.
10 years, next year 10 years from next year would have been the year we decided to throw it, just on the 1 yard line.
Yeah, we'll not talk about that right now. But were you surprised by the Pete Carroll move? And kind of a 2-in-1 question. Do you think he could have brought you another Super Bowl?
No, I'm not surprised at all. I think for the last probably 2 years, I've kind of had that question exiting every season. Like, is he coming back? Is he retiring? And I guess technically it probably wasn't his decision even this time around. I think it was kind of an internal decision. And as far as I know, he's still with the team, just kind of in the background, and so I don't know his role or anything. They haven't touched on that much, but no, I'm not surprised about it, and I honestly don't think he could have brought us another Super Bowl, just because, like I said, I felt like we had kind of been figured out, and I think Pete Carroll had kind of been figured out, at least with the Seahawks. I don't know, maybe he could go to another team and get him another Super Bowl. Great coach, but it kind of felt like we've just been showing up every year, going 10-7, 9-8, just very 50-50 almost, and sometimes making playoffs, sometimes not, losing first round. Like it didn't feel like we were making progress really for the last, I don't know, 6 years.
Yeah, I can relate to that one.
Yeah.
I didn't want to say anything, but
I mean, I feel like, though, I do need to give Pete Carroll credit, though, for 2 years ago, because that was the season after we lost Russ, and we were anticipated to just be by and far the worst team in the league.
Oh,
and he took us to, the wild card game, at least. We went to the playoffs with, and I think Gino kind of played out of his mind that year.
He did.
It was nice to see, before the season, they're like, they're going 3-15, like 3 and whatever, and to, go to the playoffs felt at least good,
I mean, you always kind of have to appreciate someone who brings you the only Super Bowl berth he got in your
for sure.
in your franchise, right?
Yeah,
it's like why Philadelphia is always going to love Nick Foles, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. With that, I know the Seahawks are a relatively young franchise, and Pete Carroll is the only one who brought a Super Bowl. But is it a clear consensus for Seahawks fans that Pete Carroll is the greatest Seahawks coach? Or would people argue? I forget who the guy is that
Mike Holmgren.
Yeah, Mike Holmgren. There you go.
Yeah, I think you could say Pete Carroll is, as far as even just like people adore him really in Seattle. Like everybody loves him. I honestly think currently, and I think he loves the city of Seattle, because I believe currently on the side, he's actually like helping out with the University of Washington football team a little bit, and kind of just cool. Like doing other things. And so I think him doing that kind of stuff just really shows that he cared about Seattle, and that even other aspects of Seattle rather than just the Seahawks, And so I think Mike Holmgren, great coach, Hall of Fame coach probably, but yeah, I think everyone would probably agree that Pete Carroll's probably the best coach we've had.
Sweet.
I don't know. There might be some like 50-year-old out there that has some coach in the 70s. That's like,
some
no.
old head take.
I'm like, okay, dude, my
like,
bad.
Right, whatever, dude.
Yeah, my bad.
That's awesome. All right. Pretty much every time we do one of these interviews, I mean, it's a quarterback league. We're going to talk about the quarterback position. So we got to move into Gino. What do you want the Seahawks to do with Gino?
That's a really tough question. Dude, it's such a weird situation, because I don't know, because, like I said, 2 years ago, I felt like he played out of his mind. This last year, by no means did he do bad. But there are a few games that I definitely felt like are on him. And I think a good example would have been our Bengals game. I think we lost to the Bengals by 3-4 points. Mm-hmm. But in our total points was like 16 or something. But that game, we went to the red zone like 5-6 times, and we came out there with like one touchdown the entire game. And
he had like 2 picks or something in the red zone or something.
And so that game was really rough. I think just our yards per game, it feels terrible to say, but like when Drew Lock came in for 2 games, like it was a little refreshing, to be honest, because when Drew Lock played, we played the 49ers our second time, and then the Eagles. He beat the Eagles, but he put up a better fight against the 49ers than Gino did.
That's true.
He had a better game.
I just pulled up his stat line against the Bengals. Final score is 17-13.
Yeah.
He went 27 of 41. He did throw for 326.
Yeah.
But 2 picks, no touchdowns.
And that's the problem is like, and that's what would piss me off about that game was because he had over 300 yards, but he had 1 touchdown.
He didn't have any on he might have had a rushing touchdown.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say, it might have even been a defensive. Like,
no, Kenneth Walker had the only touchdown, the 2 field goals,
and then 2 field goals, and it's like he had a good stat line, but like he'd get us there and then just couldn't finish it off.
Yeah,
shit his pants.
And there's a lot of games like that kind of felt like that, and our red zone was pretty bad. So I think, that was pretty rough.
Would you want this, because this is a relatively loaded draft class for quarterback, would you want the Seahawks to go that direction at 16 if someone like JJ McCarthy or Michael Penix is available?
I'd be curious to see what they do before the draft happens, just because Drew Lock is a free agent right now, actually, I believe. And so we don't have him necessarily. And so I'm not the biggest Drew Lock truther, but I think we almost have like close to a team that is so stacked everywhere else in a sense that like we don't need like the top of the top. But, and I don't know if it's Penix. Yeah. If it's JJ, no, I guess.
Fair enough. Very valid.
Good answer.
But I think we have worse problems though than the quarterback, to be honest. Like I don't want to blame our quarterback too much, just because I think our O line and D line need a lot more help. Because I think Gino's one of the quarterbacks that has the lowest pocket. Time in pocket in the league. And then when you look at, 2 years ago, I was at this game, and this last year ended up being like by the end of the year, it felt the same, but our rush defense got better because we brought back Bobby. We have Jordan Brooks. They can definitely tackle really well. I think 2 years ago they were 2 in the top 5. I think it was like Bobby 1, Jordan 3, but our O-line just lets those runs go through. And I went to the Carolina Panthers game after they traded CMC, and they had Chuba Hubbard and whoever else, just Joe Blow, freaking third string. And they both put up 100 yards each, over 100 yards each on us. And it's just like the saddest way to watch your team lose, I think, is...
Oh, it's just to get rammed out your throat.
It's just like, you don't even have to guess what they're going to do. Like... Yeah. You just know they're just going to run it down, and the O-line's going to give it up and someone's going to miss a tackle. Mm-hmm. And so, I think if our O-line or D-line could get, a little bit better, then that'd be nice. I'd hope, honestly, they go more O-line, D-line over quarterback in the first round. We ran out of all of our free Denver picks. So, we actually have to... We have to plan a little bit more now.
Oh no.
That's the way it is. Thanks. Thank you.
Thanks, Russell.
Thanks, Russ.
Same thing Houston's saying about Cleveland.
Seriously.
Oh yeah.
Is there anyone you want Seattle specifically to take at 16? Like any position, do you have a college guy that you're like, I really want this guy, we really need him?
I think if you would have asked me like a while back, I feel like Penix's stock, like his draft stock has dropped a little bit. It's like there is a chance he would be there. So I would have said him. To be honest, no, but I wouldn't be mad as a Huskies fan as well if we did take him at 16, just because I like him a lot. As a Huskies fan, he took us to the national championship, which is always a fun thing to do. Kind of feels like he took us to the Super Bowl in a way or another, and to keep him in Seattle would be fun. And as much as Gino might not be the best quarterback on the field, I do think he has lots of knowledge, and I think whoever could learn under him could learn a lot, because he learned under Russ for so long, and that definitely made him better. Like, he definitely absorbed the knowledge and like put it into his game. So
yeah, I mean, you can kind of do what the Chiefs did with Patrick Mahomes, draft him, let him sit for a year.
Yeah.
Penix is a little bit older, but you still have Geno on that contract he signed him last year. Let him get fully healthy, then unload him.
And I think no matter what, Geno, like, he's our quarterback this year.
Yeah.
I think we're looking elsewhere to save money this year. The last few days we've had a good amount of releases that have saved us.
You guys really saved 25 or something?
And we saved a little more today. We dropped, I think, Brian Monet for another like 6. So we dropped Brian Monet today for 6. And then yesterday we dropped Quandre Diggs, who I do like. I think he's definitely like gotten a little worse throughout the years, like since we signed his contract, but great guy. And then Jamal Adams, thank God. And Will Disley. So yeah, we dropped those 4 guys for I think 30 million or so in cap space, which is good for us because I think we were in a little bit of trouble with that.
A weird cap situation.
Yeah. So I don't know what they're gonna do with that, but hopefully it works.
Yeah. With all that cap saving, what moves in free agency do you want them to do?
The Seahawks actually have a lot of free agents just alone with ourselves. And so I think first and foremost, I'd love to see them get Bobby Wagner back because he only signed the one with us. So get him back. We only signed a 1 year with Leonard Williams, who came in late in the last season and made a huge impact on our defense. So I'd love to see that. Who else? Leonard Williams. My boy, I'm his biggest fan out here, DJ Dallas. He's a free agent. I don't like seeing that. I don't want to see him as a free agent. I want to see him as a Seahawks.
You might as well relocate the team if you lose DJ Dallas,
Yeah, if Mike comes in here, doesn't re-sign DJ Dallas, Seattle's up and, we're over it.
Just relocate.
Yeah.
Not even worth it.
So, we don't have that, And Jordan Brooks also, actually, both of our, linebackers, too, are up. So, I'd love to just get those 3 back first before kind of exploring options of outside, just because I think they were pretty key to our defense already, and I'd love to keep them around.
Yeah. But, to help your defensive line, there's quite a few D-line players out there in free agency with Chris Jones, Christian Wilkins, Daniel Hunter.
Yeah.
So there are some, if you can't re-sign yours, there's some out there that can really help a defense.
And you did just free up a bunch of space, so it could work out.
That's true.
I know that's the tough part is I don't know, because 2 years ago, Jordan Brooks was injured, Bobby was gone on the Rams. And so we had 2 white dudes back there as our linebackers. That shit was so hard to watch. And so, we brought them in and it helped. So it's so hard to pinpoint exactly what we need because, we could take the money and spend it on D-line, but on those runs and that happen to get past the D-line and you have some linebacker just totally blow it up. It's I don't know. It's tough. I think if we have we have a few people that got injured last year though that would edge rusher and D-line like Nosu and I think his name's Ochena Nuosu.
Yeah.
Something like that. And yeah, he was a stud. And so if we can get healthy with who we have, I feel pretty good about it. If we can just, we'll see how much we have after if we do end up re-signing Bobby and them. But yeah, I think I'd love to see them back first because I really like Leonard Williams a lot too.
Yeah.
So we kind of already answered the next question we had, which was what your biggest need was as a team. What would you be most upset for the Seahawks to address? What do you think that you're most solid at? right now as a team?
Oh, I think no doubt wide receiver. Like, not a doubt in my mind, it's wide receiver.
Yeah.
Like, I think we have top 3 wide receiver core in the league. Like, I think between DK, Tyler, and JSN, I don't know who's giving them the ball, but but I think JSN had some great games last year too. I think he kind of took a sec to get into the league, but some of these later season games, like, we started using him a lot more, and he was really showing up. Like, I can't remember exactly what game it was, but he had some completely insane one-handed catch, and
he caught the game winner for you guys against the Eagles.
I think he had I think he almost had like 2 back-to-back game-winning catches. Like, he really showed up towards the end, and I think that was kind of what we'll start to see more going forward.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of JSN. Sorry, Tanner. But I've been a big fan of JSN. But he had like a toe injury or something in the beginning of the year. Because I was curious why he started so slow as well. And I mean, you guys had the receivers that it wasn't necessary to get him involved right away. But
we kind of did. Like, I think DS Ridge was maybe suspended, but but you know, I don't know if you know who he is. Big fan of him, but he popped off in preseason last year, made a name for himself, and then actually in the game I went to in Seattle against the Cardinals is Jake Bobo.
I was gonna say, if you don't say Bobo, I don't know who you're talking about.
It's Jake Bobo. This dude is so sick. I love him, and I think it's hard to be in a wide receiver lineup when you have so many stars in front of you. But man, whenever he gets on the field, I feel like he's making a play.
I feel the same way about Cincinnati. We have such a deep wide receiver room. Like, Trenton Irwin will come in and have like 3 touchdowns one game, and then just not see the field for the rest of the season.
Yeah, they're definitely probably maybe even better than the Bengals room is stacked.
Crazy.
So that was going to kind of be the question I was going to segue into was, do you think that the Seahawks have the best receiver trio?
I don't think so, because when you have like the Bengals and the Dolphins and stuff like that, like, I don't think so. Because like, if you're to go like player by player, like, Tyreek I think is better than DK. I think JSN is kind of what keeps us up there, because I think we have 3 really solid ones, and the ones we're against have like 2 all-stars and like an okay. Like, if you look at Cincinnati, for example, Jamar Chase, dope. T. Higgins, in my opinion, dope. Tyler Boyd, good. Like, I think JSN could be a better player eventually, like maybe, but I think Seattle doesn't have like a super duper all-star. We just have 3 really solid guys.
Okay.
Whereas some of these other teams, exactly. Whereas some of these other ones just have like a super all-star, a really good guy, and then kind of like a pretty good guy as their third.
Fair enough.
Which is good enough usually.
Yeah. So before we jump into what you think next season will look like, what was the worst moment of your past season?
I don't know if it's a specific moment or just an entire game of moments. When we played the Ravens was pretty like depressing. I mean, I would say, getting swept by the Niners again, like, I think we've lost 5 straight to the Niners, so that doesn't feel good, but go back the last 15 years, scoreboard.
Scoreboard.
We kind of owned them for a long time. But yeah, the Ravens game was really tough just because it was coming off of, like, early in the season. I couldn't quite put my finger on if we were good or bad. Like, we had beaten the Lions. We had barely lost to the Bengals, which kind of felt, like our fault totally, like, because we got to the red zone so much. So we go into Baltimore and they hold us to 175 yards total. I think our rushing yards were like maybe 20 total. They beat us 28. they beat us 37-3. Like that was one of the saddest games I can even remember watching. Just it was really. I mean, that's one of those games where half rolls around and you're like, I don't even want to watch this game anymore.
The Ravens had 298 rushing yards.
Yeah, that sounds about right. And that's I think. What game of the season was that? Do you have it up? Like, what game was that?
Yeah. So what is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Week 8.
Yep, that makes sense because I felt like I said earlier, like I felt like the first 6 weeks I think we actually might have been the best defense in the league, and then it got worse.
Domination.
It just got worse. I got sadder and sadder each week. But, yeah, it was a rough game. I mean, but to be fair though, throughout the regular season, even the top teams that the Ravens were playing against, they were dominating everybody. Like other than the Steelers. You know, I don't know how that works. I don't know how that works, but
why do you have a Kenny Pickett card in a sleeve on your desk?
It's a rookie card, dude. You gotta support
I don't care.
You gotta support the kid.
Wow.
He's gonna be out of a job in 2 years, so someone's got to support him.
Russell Wilson's coming to town. He's gonna be out of a job this year.
Yeah, that's true.
That's true. All right, enough about this year. What, in your terms, what does success look like next year? And can Seattle make the playoffs?
Yeah, I think so. I think with all the new coaching that has come in and people getting healthy, and I guess my biggest question mark is like what we finish this free agency off as. Like we've made a lot of releases, but we haven't made a lot of signings. So I'm kind of curious what they do with the money. But even with the people we've dropped, like I never felt like any of them were like super pivotal. They were making a lot of money. Like, you know, Will Dissly, I think was making like $7 a year. And if you look at our tight end room, you know, we have 3 pretty solid tight ends, and between Colby Parkinson, Will Dissly, and I think is
Noah Fant.
Noah Fant. Yeah. Is he gone now though?
He's a free agent.
He's a free agent.
Cincinnati, actually.
But Seattle, I feel like doesn't use their tight ends very well. So like
Russell Wilson did, because what was the tight end Wilson? Because it was always the Wilson to Wilson.
Oh, are you talking Luke Wilson?
Yeah, Luke Wilson.
Yeah, Luke Wilson was cool. And then we had that weird fever dream where we had Jimmy Graham for a little bit. That was really weird.
Jimmy Graham.
We had that weird fever dream where we had Adrian Peterson for his. I actually was at the game. Adrian Peterson scored a touchdown. Like it was, I don't know what was going on.
I don't know what it is with the NFC West teams, but they feel like almost like a retirement home for a lot of the other league. The Cardinals way more than the Seahawks, but I feel like a lot of players randomly. I mean, you had Jerry Rice on the Seahawks
Greg Olsen.
for a little bit. Greg Olsen on I don't know why
Well, if you look
players in the twilight. I mean, Emmitt Smith was on the Cardinals, you know,
yeah, it's like Shaq, you know, going on to the
he was on the Celtics for a little bit.
Yeah. Just going a little world tour for a minute.
My favorite Shaq Celtics.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I guess next year though, I think we could make the playoffs for sure. I think the new coaching staff looks really good because what we got Grubb too from. Was it? I mean, I guess he was signed with Alabama at the time, or was it Alabama?
What's his first name?
Boy.
Is it Daniel Grubb?
Who gets it first?
I'm going. Oh, Daniel Grubbs has a LinkedIn page. I don't think this is him.
No. Grubb. It's Grubb. Just say football Grubb.
That's gonna bring up food.
Oh, that's you're right. Yeah.
Ryan Grubb, offensive coordinator.
Yeah. I think he was with UW, and then he like signed a new contract. UW being University of Washington. I know a lot of colleges use that. and then he signed with Alabama after the season, and then just rescinded that and came to the Seahawks.
I know your head coach did that.
He was just at Washington.
He stayed in Alabama.
He was just at Washington, and before that, he was at Fresno State since 2017.
Yeah, he was at Washington, and then he like joined Alabama for like a week, and then he came to us. And so I think we have a lot of young coaches that are looking really nice, and I think we have the talent if they use it right. You know, I just think if we can, kind of stitch up the O-line, D-line, we're looking pretty good. I mean,
yeah,
we've been on kind of, if you look at last year too, our win, like our record, I mean, we went that with that Bengals game where, you know, probably should have won. The second Rams game of the season, we missed the game-winning field goal, which Tanner was at my house and watched me get mad. And, you know, there's a few games that were just totally our fault. And so I think we were almost there this last year. And if we can get some better coaching and some better players, I think we can be there.
Yeah.
We'll have to
I'll be curious because I think.
Sorry, go for it, Danny.
No, I'll be curious what happens because legal tampering starts in the next couple of days because free agency is like a week away.
Right around the corner.
What are you saying, Tanner?
I was saying we'll have to find a way to get the thumbnail for this episode to be the picture of Tyler and I holding our jersey swap.
Oh yeah, we jerseys after the Steelers game. Yeah, that game sucked.
That'd be funny.
Yeah, the legal. I actually saw some article about who I want to be re-signed by the Seahawks. I think it was Leonard Williams about the tampering stuff because he wants to play with the Raiders, and so there was something. I think he's from there. Like it's almost like a beast mode Marshawn Lynch situation where, you know, that's where he's from. He wants to just go there. And
I don't know if I do that. Even if I was from LA or Las Vegas, I don't know about that one.
Who's their quarterback?
No one. Aiden O'Connell.
Yeah, no one. Yeah,
pretty much no one.
But yeah, so should be good.
Want to round it off, Tanner?
Yeah, let's do the last one. So it's gonna be a good one to round it off. We already kind of been talking shit about Russell Wilson for a little bit now. So looking back at the Russell Wilson trade, what are your thoughts on how it went down?
Oh, so good. So good, dude. Look at this. You know what this blanket's made out of? Fleece, dude. We fucking fleeced them. We fucking fleeced them. Dude, this was so. I mean, it's so funny because after the first year, it was already like, oh, this might be the worst trade ever. And then year two, Broncos come in, they're like 500, and they're like, oh, we're the Seahawks fans now. It's like, we're still here because Russell Wilson was supposed to be your missing piece to a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're not even close. And now,
not even close.
Year three, they're taking by far the biggest dead cap space hit like in history. The number two is 40 million.
Yeah.
You know, like, oh man, dude, being a Broncos fan must suck right now. Like that.
He hasn't even started his new deal yet. Like his extension when he got traded starts next year.
Yeah.
Like he was playing on your contract. Like,
I mean,
how did that even happen?
He started playing well, and then they started doing that weird, like, injury. Like they were like threatening him. Like they're weird stuff coming out of the Broncos because, you know, rough times in Denver.
Yeah. Weird situation. I'm glad I'm not a Broncos fan.
But no, yeah, Seahawks. I think we're looking great. You know, after trading him, we were supposed to be the worst team. Made the playoffs. Broncos didn't. Big W. And then just, I hope he doesn't come back to us. There's a lot of Seahawks fans out there making posts talking about, well, what if he comes back? It's like, let's not do that. Like, it'd be cool. It'd be cool, but like, I don't. If you want like the long-term plan, long-term success, like it's more of like for fun, I think.
Yeah. If you give him more than a half a second to throw the football, he's a good quarterback, but the Broncos did nothing for him.
But if you look at like why he excelled so much with us back in when like early, 2013, 14, 15, like it's because he still has an arm, like don't get me wrong, but his versatility of like, is he going to throw it or run it? And he can't really run it anymore.
Yeah.
And that's when, and that's why I feel like that's the hard part of being that kind of quarterback is at least he has an arm, because I still think he is a good quarterback. Like you look at some of the other, I don't know, in my opinion, like Kyler Murray's, like once his running abilities go away, like if you don't have an arm, you're done.
Over.
You're kind of done.
Yeah. And in one of our other interviews, the Broncos interview, actually, he was saying that there was rumors that they only ran like a variation of 6 plays for Russell Wilson throughout the season. They just didn't trust him for whatever reason.
And Sean Payton was a terrible fit for Russell Wilson. Sean Payton had Drew Brees, which was very much like analyze a field immediately, throw the ball within 2 to 3 seconds. Russell Wilson has never been that type.
Russell Wilson's like scan the field for 5 seconds and
scramble outright. He
does the moon ball, dude. He's the moon ball. You can just
it works.
Yeah, that's what he was all about. Yeah,
but that's not what Sean Payton is used to.
It didn't. I mean, in my opinion, too, it wasn't a good sign when, I don't know, like maybe a month after Sean Payton came in, there was like a headline of him telling Russell to focus less on social media and business stuff and focus more on football. I was like, it's to me that made it apparent that they're already butting heads.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, it's not. I mean, Sean Payton too. He's also the master of targeting players for bounty. Yeah, he's the bounty hunter. He's the bounty hunter.
I don't like Sean Payton.
We're the anti-Sean Payton podcast.
Oh, yeah. He's a bounty hunter. He's fucking Boba Fett over here, dude. He's fucking.
All right. Well, on that note, we should wrap it up. We appreciate you coming on, Tyler.
Yeah.
Good work making sure Broncos fans are going to cry into their pillows tonight. So
as they should.
You did what we needed you to do. So we appreciate you. And
thanks for having
definitely
me.
when we get closer to NFL season, I might have to get you on for a Seahawks week or something.
Would love to do it. Maybe like a watch party or something. Just I'll commentate with you. It'll be like the Manning cast. Well,
we'll just do a Manning cast.
Do a Manning cast, but we'll all do meth beforehand, so it'll be more fun.
On that note, let's send it to commercial.
Hell yeah.
You're the proud owner of a business, and you've got it all. The hustle, the bustle, and the occasional office kitchen mishap that turns into an alarm-triggering emergency.
Whoa!
But fear not. Western States Fire Protection is here to turn your workplace into a disaster-free zone. Our in-house team handles everything from fire sprinklers to alarms, monitoring, inspections, extinguishers, and more. Visit WSFP.com to request a quote. Because when your microwave thinks it's a flamethrower, we're the heroes you need.
This podcast is sponsored by Hair Club.
Fellas, are you losing your hair? Hairline receding, maybe? In the past, we as men had limited options. We could either rock the grandpa hairline, shave it, or resort to a very obvious-looking toupee. Well, the good news is there's an option for you now. Hair Club is a hair restoration and hair replacement service with offices spanning across the United States. Hair Club is different from other hair restoration places because they use cutting-edge technology like TricoView hair and scalp analysis, utilizing micromagnification to examine hair and scalp health. This provides better diagnostics of your hair and determines solutions to stop your personal hair loss. Solutions range from EXT extreme hair therapy to keep and regrow your existing hair by reactivating follicles and adding volume, X-Strands hair systems that is color and texture matched to perfection to blend with the rest of your hair, or even hair transplant solutions for those who are further along in their hair loss. I personally use the X-Strands system and have never turned back. My wife thinks I'm as sexy as ever and my confidence is at an all-time high, but I'm just a podcaster, right? Well, Hair Club has become such a renowned name that even dudes like two-time NASCAR champion Joey Logano and primetime Emmy nominee Frankie Muniz both utilize Hair Club services. And if you ultimately decide on a service, be sure to use the code FOURTH. That's FOURTH for 10% off everything you purchase. There's no better time to get your hair back than now. So fellas, boost your confidence, get that look you want. Go to hairclub.com today.
Are you looking for a podcast to advertise your business? Well, you're in luck. Here at the Fourth Down Fiasco, we're looking for show sponsors. Whether you want to be a platinum sponsor and be mentioned at the beginning and end of every episode, or you just want a simple 30 or 60-second ad, we got you covered. If you're interested in having a spot on our show, you can reach us at fourthdownfiasco@gmail.com. That's fourthdownfiasco@gmail.com. We are excited to hear from you and even more excited to have you on the show. Join the Fiasco family now.
Welcome back to Fanbase Fiasco, our mainstay off-season content where we interview a fan from every single NFL franchise. We just wrapped up with our Seahawks correspondent, and we decided to stay in the NFC West with the Arizona Cardinals. Representing the oldest continuously ran franchise in the NFL is my good friend Conrad Serbanowski, and I apologize in advance for the horrific pronunciation, but say sheesh to the people, Conrad.
Hey guys, what's up? Kind of interesting to have me representing the oldest franchise, given that I only started watching football maybe 4 or 5 years ago, but I'm glad to be here and glad to have you guys on. Glad you guys are going to have me on.
Yeah, we're glad you're here.
All about irony.
Yeah, seriously.
So we're going to kick it off, and, I have to obviously ask, do you think the Cardinals can ever be seen as a serious franchise when their starting quarterback is literally 3'6"?
Well, my response to that is this. At the end of the day, yes, football, it's competitive, but it's also about the product you're putting down on the field, right? It's got to be entertaining for the fans. And Kyler Murray, watching him run along out there with his little tiny legs. Well, he's fast. He runs fast with those little tiny legs. It's fun. It's fun to watch. You can't deny that, right? And that's step one. Step two, I think in terms of serious competitive football, I think we can talk about, game planning, maybe like if we come up with some strategies where you have him, have someone boost him up a little bit so that he can see over the line while he throws, or like, put him on someone's shoulder, kind of like for like a chicken fight, and he can throw from there. I think we have a shot at seriously being real contenders with Kyler Murray.
I would like to see the reaction if they actually took like an offensive tackle and like put him up on shoulders and had him throw.
Did you guys ever play street football?
No.
On like PS2?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
The wall jump, he should just like jump off of like the lineman and just like yeet it.
Have either of you guys watched Triple R? It's a Tollywood movie, so it's from India. No?
I've seen the trailers, but I haven't watched it.
Okay, so there's a point in that movie where one of the main characters breaks his legs, and the other main character picks him up on his shoulders, and they're running through, and he's like dual wielding shotguns and shooting people like while being piggybacked ride. That's awesome. What you'll do with Kyler Murray.
Hey, I'm just saying, with all of that Call of Duty training that Kyler's put in, he's got the accuracy. All right,
that's true.
If you give him the point where he can see over the line, he's fucking hitting.
He's
dots,
good.
All right.
What's his KD? I guess. Like,
does he have the accuracy? It's
point.
Supposed to be pretty good. People are saying he's good. So
yeah, you know better than I would. But so you say you've only been a team for a couple years, 4 or 5 years now. How did you become a fan of the Arizona Cardinals?
Yeah, so I never really watched football growing up, and then I think it was like 4 or 5 years ago at this point. I just got invited to play in a fantasy football league with Tanner and a couple of our other friends. And I kind of told them right off the bat, like, hey guys, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm going to auto draft, we'll see what happens. But everyone was cool with that. So I did that. And I actually got Kyler Murray as my quarterback on that team. And at first I was just kind of like putting in guys based on numbers and stuff, but I figured might as well start watching some of the games with some of the players that I have on my fantasy team, right? Like might as well see how they're performing. And I kind of started tuning into some of the Cardinals games because that was my quarterback, right? Kyler Murray. And I think he was just really fun to watch, but I think I kind of got, I remember one of the first games that I tuned into was that year they played the Bills. And they had there's the crazy clip where it's like 5 seconds left. Kyler Murray like rolls out left and just hucks a bomb all the way to the end zone. And D-Hop is in the middle of like 4 guys. He brings it down and they win the game, right?
That was absurd.
dude, I just remember I got so hyped up just watching that, especially because I think like it mattered for like my fantasy matchup, and there he was, 5 seconds left, throwing a touchdown, and I was like, oh my god, you know. And I think I just kind of got into it, and that was you know, still with Cliff Kingsbury, but that was when Cliff's offense was rolling, and I just remember I really liked that it was a like a pass first kind of air raid offense, because at the time I didn't really understand a ton of the run game, right? Like, you know, I was new to football, so I liked watching cool plays. And I just remember there were games where, like, there was a game, I swear, in like one game there must have been like 6 or 7 throws that were like, you know, that were caught, like, you know, out of bounds toe drag kind of throws. Like, they were doing a lot of just like throw the ball a lot to dynamic wide receivers, and then Kyler Murray's also just kind of like randomly running in touchdowns and going crazy. And I just fell in love with that. And I had a lot of, so I just kind of, that became my team.
Nice. And so to continue on that, if you've only been watching football for a couple years, it's going to be a really relevant player. But who was your favorite player to watch during your lifetime so far?
It's going to be cliche, but I just have to say Patrick Mahomes. I mean, I'm like, he's just Patrick Mahomes with Andy Reid running the offense. It's just fantastic. I mean, he's amazing in the pocket. He makes great plays. He is just like, I think, the best football player right now. And since I'm only watching the football that's right now, to me, like, that's by far the best football player I've watched.
He is very good.
Yeah.
And we all hate it.
And it's nice that the best quarterback in the league actually is really talented. Unlike, you know, before you started watching, I'm not like a huge Tom Brady hater. I think Tom Brady is also, like, you know, he's the best, all those things, right? But Patrick Mahomes is clear cut, like a more entertaining quarterback to watch.
Yeah. I mean, like this year, even I was rooting against the Chiefs in the Super Bowl and in the playoffs coming up to the Super Bowl. But I couldn't, at the end of the day, I can't be mad or I can't be anything, because I went and I watched and they were fun to watch. They played really well and they earned their wins. And that's like, it just comes down to like, I'm not a particularly big Chiefs fan. I don't really hate them either, but like, he's just fun to watch.
Yeah.
He is an exciting player to watch. You are correct. But so to continue on with that, who in your team's history do you wish you could have watched?
That's a good question. I mean, to be completely honest, I haven't spent a ton of time, you know, researching the team's history. I think the name that gets thrown out there all the time is Larry Fitzgerald, right? Like every Cardinals fan just like creams their jorts over Larry Fitzgerald all the time. And I want to know why, right? Like, it would be interesting to go back and have gotten to see like what he was and how he did, you know, kind of like rose to that level within the fan base.
Yeah. My favorite stat of Larry Fitzgerald is that he has more tackles than career drops.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, how does a wide receiver have more tackles than dropped passes? Like, that alone is absurd.
Mm-hmm. He went to Pitt too, so shout out.
It's true. Continue on with another favorite. What was your favorite moment this season?
That's a tough one, because it was not a great season. I mean, we're in a rebuild. We've got Josh Dobbs as our starting quarterback for the first half of the season, and we've got Kyler Murray coming back from injury. We have
who did you throw in before Kyler Murray came? Like, he was healthy, but like, who was, you traded Josh Dobbs and you started for like a week because
like Clayton. Like, it might have just been Clayton Tune. I think it was probably Clayton Tune, the rookie that we drafted.
This thing.
I don't know. To be honest, I don't know that I watched that week specifically. You know what I mean? But like, but overall this season, I think I can say generally, I was excited to see Kyler come back. It was exciting to see that he came back from that ACL, and everybody, you know, there was been all this time everybody's talking about, you know, is Kyler our quarterback? who knows, new coaching staff. He's been injured. He comes. Who knows if he's ever going to come? How he's going to look like when he comes back. And he comes back, and I thought he played really well. So I would say generally Kyler coming back, and especially seeing him create, get that connection going with Trey McBride. I don't remember the exact game, but I remember at some point in the season we had a game, and he throws a touch. He's got a good drive going, and he throws a touchdown to Trey McBride, and it gets called back for some reason. And then the very next play, he just runs it right back, goes straight to Trey McBride again, and we score a touchdown. And I think that was just really exciting to see. It's just like they've got their connection. They are running, rolling on all levels. Like, everything's going, and he is not scared to just, he trusts Trey, and he's not scared to go there. And just watching in that last half of the season, Trey McBride was putting up some of the best numbers out of any tight end in the league, I think.
Oh yeah.
Right. Like he was basically our wide receiver one, because we didn't even have Hollywood Brown for the last
couple of weeks.
That's true.
And Trey McBride. So I would say that. I think the other thing, just like in general, seeing that even though we didn't really have a roster this season, it didn't feel like we were getting steamrolled in a lot of our games. It felt like we were, especially once we got Kyler back, we were actually pretty competitive, even in the games we were losing.
You guys even beat the Cowboys without Kyler.
Yeah, that's true. Although the Cowboys seem to just be an enigma. They beat, I don't know, who knows how good they really are.
Yeah.
I mean, because we also lost to the Giants. So, I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, football's weird in that way, right?
Yeah.
So let's go to the opposite, right? So favorite part of the season, obviously kind of that second half revival. What was the worst part for watching Cardinals football?
Just the fact that we sucked. I mean, we went 4 wins, right? Or 5 wins or whatever it was. We were not a good team.
There wasn't a lot to.
We were in a rebuild, right? We released DeAndre Hopkins, so we released DeAndre Hopkins. We played the first half of the season without our main quarterback. The whole, if you look at even at corner, I think for the whole second half of the season, we're basically playing 3 rookies at corner, and not that they did horrible, but I don't know what you're expecting. So I think maybe if I had to pinpoint one week, it was the week where we played the Bengals, maybe, and I was against Jamar Chase in fantasy, and he had been doing pretty poorly all year, and then he puts up insane numbers against us, and I watch the Cardinals get creamed by him while also watching my fantasy team lose to him. That might have been the single worst Cardinals moment I had this season, but overall I think just the fact that we weren't a good team this year was
Yeah, I think that was Burrow's first healthy game all season.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and it just happened to be against Arizona.
Yeah,
not bad. But so you say your season sucked. On a grading scale, how would you grade the Cardinals season A-F?
Honest answer here, interestingly, is it's going to be with an asterisk, but I would say a B or a B plus, because we weren't expecting any different this year.
Mm-hmm.
I think when you look at, we brought in a new GM and a new coach and a new offensive coordinator, right? And we basically released some big names, and we just tried to accumulate draft capital. I mean, we really just did a clean reset. We said, okay, we've got Kyler. We know we're not winning this year. There's no expectation we're going to win. Let's accumulate a bunch of draft capital, right? I even loved, we made, the first round move that we made. It, wasn't necessarily the most spectacular, genius thing, ever. But we knew which guy we wanted. We had a good feel for when we could get him. And we traded back and then traded up to get him at the right spot. And in the process also got the Texans' #1 pick for 2024. Now that ended up not being a very good pick, because somehow the Texans ended up going, making a serious playoff run, right? But the thinking behind that move was good, and I think that held true for most of what we did. And then we did come in and we weren't fantastic this season. I don't think, but also I think everything I was seeing out of the building was that culture seems to be good. A lot of players talking about the fact that they like Gannon. I think I was even, near the end of the season, I was seeing little blurbs that like multiple other head coaches around the league had said stuff like the Cardinals might be the hardest to beat 4-win team, they'd seen, right? And which, we ended up beating the Eagles, and I think we really should have won against the Seahawks in the last week, So I think the fact that we took and we actually made a clean reset while starting the rebuild, right? Developing young pieces like Trey McBride, and Paris Johnson Jr., and kind of showing that, Drew Petzig's offensive scheme can work. We actually had a pretty solid run game, which I don't think is what I've seen from the Cardinals in the past, but we had a solid run game. I think what I saw is that we set ourselves up well for this year. And now comes the question. We've set up the rebuild. We've put ourselves in a position. We have lots of cap space, and we've got lots of draft picks. And can we execute on that and now actually, put up a good season?
Yeah.
No, and that's a really good point, is kind of looking at the season, how things were supposed to go down. There's kind of a glimmer of hope towards the end of the season. And I mean, we just saw it with the Texans, as you said, we went from a bottom 3 team in the league to a division round appearance going against a 1 seed. And we'll go into more of like how we think the Cardinals will do next season and stuff like that a little bit later. But would you think there's a reality where the Cardinals actually pull that same formula off that the Texans did, where they went from a team that, 5 wins minus that and go all the way up to like a 9, 10, 11 win team? I certainly don't think that we're likely to end up doing as well as the Texans did. I think the Texans really pulled something special out of the bag there this season. But I think there's a decent chance that we take a step in that direction, And I think, like, for example, if you look at the Lions, right? The Lions have also had a turnaround, but it took a couple, Dan Campbell got there in their first season, they had like 4 wins. And then I think the next season they were like, a win off of playoffs. So they maybe like 8 wins or something like that. Right. And then they ended up this last year, they got to the playoffs. Right. And they actually got a playoff win. Right. And so I think I think there's a pretty solid chance that we end up being better this year and looking like we're on the right track. But I'm not sitting out here holding out hope that suddenly we're going to be, like the next Super Bowl contender. I think I would like to see, same as this year, I just wanted to see us set up the rebuild. I would like us to see us take the right steps so that it feels reasonable that maybe in 2 years we're an actual playoff contender. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You guys could draft a CJ Stroud and then have a defense that just goes absolutely insane when they need to. It's possible.
Yeah.
Sort of.
Sort of. Yeah.
Hypothetically.
That analogy you used with the Lions is actually good, like really spot on, because I'm looking at the Lions' last couple of seasons, their record, and you're saying, yeah, hopefully 2 years you could be there. The Lions went 3-13-1 in 2021, and then they went 9-8 in 2022, and then they went 12-5 last year with the NFC Championship appearance. Yeah. So,
yeah, which obviously a lot of teams try to do that with the rebuild, and very few of them actually succeed. So you have to come into it with the hopes of like, both the Texans and the Lions have done something that I think is very, very hard to do.
Absolutely.
I don't know that I am expecting that to happen, but I think I am cautiously optimistic that at least like we can take a step in that direction.
There's been quite a few teams over the last, within the last 10 years that have showed a very detailed plan of over 3 to 4 course, like 3 to 4 years, how to rebuild properly. Cincinnati's done it. Houston has done it. Detroit has done it. And if given the opportunity with the coaching staff, it is possible. But so many owners are like, we'll give you a year and you're out if we don't have a winning record. And it's like, how does that make any sense?
Yeah.
Maybe the Jets will figure it out.
Clearly, they've already had that conversation with Michael Bidwill, the owner, right? Because clearly it was very obvious this year that the expectation was rebuild and that we weren't really trying to win, right? So I think, as far as I can tell, they've had that conversation and they have set themselves on that track of, this is a 3-4 year process to get where we want to get to.
And if they've had that conversation, you are already higher than any other rebuild. Over half the rebuilds. Yeah,
right. Okay, well, going back to where we were, besides, playoff expectations, those types of things, let's kind of dial back towards Kyler Murray. Do you think the trajectory of Kyler Murray's career so far, do you think that he has what it takes to develop into a franchise quarterback?
Honestly, I already see him as our franchise quarterback. And I think some of that is one, personally, I'm wearing a Kyler Murray jersey right now, right? So, and he's the guy who got me into football. So obviously I have some bias here, right? I'm a fan of Kyler Murray. But I think that aside, I think realistically, whether we have to accept the fact that we're paying him a franchise quarterback salary. He's got a franchise quarterback deal.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. And if we were just talking about what needs to happen for a rebuild to be successful, I think step one of that process is you're not paying $250 million to a guy who's not playing on the field for you. Right? Like and
would be nice.
Maybe I'm wrong, and maybe like what the Broncos just did is going to work out fantastically for them. And I'm wrong, and we should move on from Kyler Murray. But I think when you've given the guy that contract, like Kyler, in my mind, would have to play quite poorly not to be our current franchise quarterback. Yeah. And beyond that, I think that he showed this last year. I mean, I think he's been showing for a couple of years that he has what it takes. Like when he was doing well under Cliff Kingsbury's offense, he was actually we were dominating for a while. 2 years ago, right? We started off the season like 7-0, and at one point we're like 9-2 or something, right? And this year, actually, one thing that was really interesting was with this new offense, he actually showed a little bit more of that pocket passer skill. He wasn't always running around as much, and it wasn't so much of just like, so much. It was a more straightforward. We've got more of a run game, and then he was standing in the pocket and throwing the ball to Trey McBride and, I guess Rondale Moore a little bit. I don't know, but not really Rondale Moore at all. Trey McBride and Greg Dortch, to be honest.
You can say James Conner. That's
James Conner too. Honestly, dude, I love James Conner. Great.
Me too.
He's fantastic. So I think that unless he, is he as good as Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen and Joe Burrow? Absolutely not. Right? Like he certainly has not shown that. But I think he's shown that he's a lot better than a lot of the other guys hanging around the league.
Well, and kind of like you alluded to earlier, where it's like, is it going to work out for the Broncos with the whole Russell Wilson situation? Probably not, right? But the thing is Kyler Murray's definitely a step above Russell Wilson, right?
Yeah.
Like the way Russell Wilson played the last 2 years in Denver, Kyler Murray hasn't done that.
No. So, give Russell nothing to do with.
That's true.
That's true. Hey, keep saying that. That's good.
Hey, you've got Russell over on your team right now. You can't be. You're supposed to be supporting him.
Yeah, let him cook, man.
Listen to our past interviews. You did not want him. He said Mason Rudolph is better than Russell Wilson.
Hey, yeah, Mason Rudolph's on the Titans now.
He's on the Titans now, right? Yeah.
Crazy. Will Levis, Mason Rudolph. What the two?
Didn't they just get Calvin Ridley?
Yeah,
that was absurd.
And they've got Tony Pollard, right? They're making some moves out there.
Their new head coach and what they're signing so far, could be interesting.
I'm telling you, if Mason Rudolph wins that job in Tennessee and he looks good and brings them to like a playoff berth or something, I'm going to be the most insufferable person on the planet.
Hey, you can't take away from Mayo and his coffee.
All right, I'm rooting for it. I want to see Tanner's pain in his eyes as he recognizes that he's watching Russell Wilson and he could have been watching Mason Rudolph.
Hey,
and I called it.
Yeah, and he called it. I like
that
it.
clip will have so many correct responses in there back and forth.
Oh man, that's gonna be brutal. All right, well, you kind of answered some of the upcoming questions I had. It seems like Kyler Murray's leash is going to be pretty long as he doesn't entirely shit the bed, right?
Yeah,
as
I
long
think
as he
so.
still plays competent football, he'll be in Arizona for a little while.
And I'm going to come out here and say, like, I think there's a pretty good chance that he comes out this year and he looks like a top 10 quarterback in the league. I really do. Like, I think he's got a lot of talent. I like the offensive scheme that we've got going. I like where the team is headed, and I think he's going to come out and look, hopefully, as long as he can stay injury free, I think he's going to be a really solid quarterback for us this year.
Yeah.
No, and that'd be huge. And, the breaching into that top 10 isn't as difficult as it might seem the last couple of years. I mean, when you get into that, like, 7 and 8 range, Kyler Murray could easily, if he has a good enough year, you could easily argue him over a bunch of those guys that, we listed at, like, the 7 to 12 range over the last year.
Yeah, for sure.
So we kind of spoke a little bit about free agency, so we're going to kind of pivot right into that because we're, as of the day of recording, we're right in the midst of, the free agency frenzy. I mean, Calvin Ridley went to the Titans like an hour ago. So we're right in the middle of it. So
Jonah
far,
Williams signed right before we started recording.
Yeah, we were literally about to press record and Jonah Williams signs with the Cardinals.
Yep.
So
good luck with him.
Well, yeah, you got to give me the inside scoop. You know more than I do.
Yeah, you stole him from Cincinnati.
Yeah.
So thus far with the signings, how things have been going, how would you grade the Cardinals free agency on a scale of A to F?
It's a little hard for me. I'm going to go with a solid B here again, just because I like the game plan and I like the thought process behind it. So far what we've done is we've signed we've made 4 or 5 signings, none of from what I have seen have been like crazy splashy. It's not the biggest names in the league. It's a bunch of guys who are getting 3-year deals for around 15, 17 million, stuff like that. At least that was a couple of them, who were consistent starters who played most of their games over the last 2 years.
Yeah.
And I think when you look at, I think like in the Cardinal subreddit over the last little while, everybody was, like people were talking about, we got to get Christian Wilkinson, right? Or the Miami Dolphins tackle who ended up, but then you look at like the price point, he went to the Raiders for like 4 years, 110 million or something, right?
Too much.
Yeah. And it's like
huge contract.
And it's just like, our defense isn't going to be fixed by one guy, right? Like if you look at where we were last season, we need like 7 guys. Like we just need to get consistent starters on the team. And they're not, if you want to do that, we have a lot of cap space, but they're not going to be giant names. So like I'm looking at this and I think I'm happy with the philosophy. I'm happy with the plan that they're going along with, which is why it's a positive grade. I'm going to give them a B, but I don't specifically, like half these players I've never I don't know, like you tell me, the Nichols, right? Or, like I don't know. I know Sean Murphy Bunting, right? But like, I don't know all of the players even on that list.
Yeah.
So it's hard for me to like tell you whether I think they're fantastic signings.
And when I looked at the list, I mean, it is a lot of depth signings. Most of the guys were to fill in holes where you guys were weak positionally. But Sean Murphy Bunting, like you just mentioned, is a pretty good signing because I know the Cardinals had a horrible like secondary problem, right? I mean, Buda Baker and a bunch of like 12-year-olds.
I mean, we were just playing 3 rookies and 3 rookies that I think if I'm not mistaken, we drafted one corner pretty early, Hayes, and I think he got injured. We drafted him early in the draft and he got injured early in the season, and then we're playing 3 corners who are like rookies who honestly actually some of them did okay, but like for the most part it's just hard to do. You don't really have a real core CB1, right? Like a real corner out there who can hold his own against the best guys in the league.
Yeah.
And do you think Sean Murphy Bunting's going to be able to do that? Do you think he is going to be a solid CB1 who's going to be able to keep up with some of the, because I mean in the NFC West you got some problems to deal with.
That's true.
From receivers. You got to cover Puka Nacua, Cooper Kupp, Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk,
DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett,
JSN, like a lot of really good receivers.
JSN, Jackson Smith, Njigba.
That's a tough question. I think, to me, he doesn't stand out as like a clear CB1 who's just going to be locking those guys down and just like going crazy. Yeah. I think what I see in that signing is just a solid corner who, one, will be able to at least hold his own and not just like, hopefully there won't be like giant blown coverages, right? Like a guy who's going to go out there and play good solid football, and a guy that you have in your cornerback room who has been in this league a couple of years, who knows what it's like, and has some experience playing against some of these really good players or some of the best players in the league, and can hopefully help guide a little bit of what we have going on in that cornerback room, right? Yeah. I certainly wouldn't be upset if we signed another, if we plan to like, okay, we're going to draft a corner and we're going to sign at least one more guy who's like at least pretty decent at corner. I wouldn't hate that. But I think he's, at the minimum, he is bringing positives to that position and to that team for us, to our team. And that's something I'm happy about, regardless of whether he really is, a true CB1.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Do you know if your defense runs more zone or more man?
That is a great question.
Yeah, I couldn't tell you really what Cincinnati runs. It's not a trick question or anything, but I was just seeing if Murphy was a scheme fit or not.
Murphy plays a lot of zone, right?
I think so.
I wouldn't be surprised. And to be honest, I think
is moving back to zone.
Yeah, I think this last year we may have been playing more man, but I think some of that may have just been, and I'm really coming out here telling you guys this is something where I'm sure plenty of people know better than me, but I think we may have been playing a lot of man just because we were on rookies. And I think from my understanding is that guys coming into the league early, it's easier to tell them, stay with this guy, mark him, than really develop a good zone defense. Yeah. And that might be exactly, aside if Tanner's right and Murphy Bunting does play more zone, that might be exactly a signing with that in mind of let's bring a guy in who knows zone, one, so he's going to fit into that scheme if we want to move that way, and two, can help explain that, can help direct that, can be the guy on the field who's actually helping, makes pass guys off, make some of the checks along the way because he's got that experience, right?
You throw a bunch of rookies out there and tell them learn zone coverage before week one, you're going to have a lot of
exactly. So I think either way, just having a guy on the team who's got a little bit more experience in that position and who is going to be out there and playing solid defense, I think is going to be a plus.
Yeah. Before we move into the draft, I just want to bring up Jonah Williams, since he did just sign right before. 2 years, $30 million. He probably one of the best offensive linemen available in free agency. Not in the NFL. He is not top in the NFL, but
in free agency,
he's solid. You couldn't draft a better guy. You couldn't sign. There's maybe one or two that you could sign that are equal or maybe a little better, but he doesn't get beat a lot. But it's a very solid pickup. And
he plays
I wish he would have stayed in Cincinnati, but we just had to sign a better left tackle or left guard instead of him with Orlando Brown Jr. last year. And we're like, let's just move you to the other side, and kind of really pissed him off.
Okay.
Which happens, yeah. By the way, I was talking out of my ass about the Sean Murphy Bunting thing. Apparently he's really good at man coverage, but he's terrible in zone.
Oh, well, then that fits your defense.
Let's just cut that last whole segment. All right, we can pretend it never happened.
Yeah. I didn't hear anything.
Yeah.
With that being said, let's move to the draft.
Well, no. I still, as far as Jonah Williams goes, I think definitely an exciting pickup for us. I think one, if you look at, we just cut DJ Humphries, right? And I think generally everybody on the team. DJ Humphries was playing well. I don't know that any Cardinals fans out there who didn't want to have DJ Humphries, but he is 33 years old, I think, and he did tear his ACL or, have some major injury right at the end, like against the Eagles in like week 17 or something, or I don't know, like right near the end of last season.
Yeah.
And there's just a question of, I think it was a $22 million cap hit if we keep him on the team this year. And it's just, are you sticking with the guy who's 33? Who knows if he ever really comes back from this knee injury.
Yeah.
Certainly it happened right at the end of last season. So he's probably, you're trying to fill that spot anyways for the first half of the season while he's getting back. Right. Yeah. And he's costing you $22 million, and you realize we can get a guy for $30 million for 2 years who's, good and can play right now.
Yeah.
I think it's a solid move.
I wouldn't be surprised if he re-signs with a restructured deal to take away that 22 mil cap hit.
Yeah.
Or they just say goodbye and let him go.
Yeah. I think the other thing, I don't know, maybe I didn't have it. Obviously it happened right before we hopped on, but I think I saw something that they have plans to put him on right tackle and move Paris Johnson Jr. back to left tackle, which is, I think, what Paris Johnson played in college.
Interesting.
So
that'll be good.
So it's also like, let's bring, we brought in Paris Johnson and we had him play right tackle last year because we needed him to, but let's bring him back to what he played in college. Let's bring him back there. And let's, we got this other, solid right tackle we can plug and play. And especially I think with the focus on making sure that Kyler's not getting injured, right? Because if there's one big criticism I think that you can really have of Kyler, other than the fact that he's short and plays Call of Duty, it's that he has been injury prone. And step one for helping that is get yourself a good O-line so that he's not getting squashed by dudes twice his size.
Yeah.
Right? Like
good point. Yeah.
So I think from that perspective, it's also just really, it's a solid signing, and hopefully if our O-line plays well, we can really look at a healthy season for Kyler.
I do find it funny you saying they're moving Paris Johnson back to the left side and keeping Williams on the right side. Williams threw a hissy fit in Cincinnati going to the right side. And for him to have Arizona as his first choice, to know he's going to stay on the right side, makes me laugh.
Yeah.
And I just want to say, I think I read that pretty quickly right before we hopped on, but obviously all this news came out 30 minutes ago. So we'll have to see how it all plays out.
But yeah, it'll be funny.
That would be a funny thing if he ended up just being happy playing right tackle for us.
He played well right tackle for us. He was solid.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's hop into the draft. What do you want the Cardinals to do at 4?
MHJ. Marvin Harrison Jr.
There.
I mean, if he's there at 4, which, right now, who knows what's going to happen on draft night? Right now, I think most of the things that I'm seeing is that the first 3 teams are taking quarterbacks. And if he's there at number 4, I think we're taking MHJ.
Yeah.
And there's no question about it, because we need a wide receiver.
Yeah.
And he might be the best wide receiver prospect in the last, since Larry Fitzgerald, probably.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think I don't see any reason to trade back or do anything else if he's there. Yeah. I think all of the conversation about trading back comes into play if he's not there.
Yeah.
If he gets taken 3rd by the Patriots, right? I think that's where some of the talk
Patriots is. Are at 3.
I think the talk is, picks 1 and 2 are definitely, Commanders and Bears are definitely going QB, right?
The Bears have screwed themselves.
Yeah, well,
all the teams that needed quarterbacks have filled their position. And what are they going to do with Justin Fields?
I don't know,
but great backup for Caleb.
Yeah,
will be good
for Caleb. He's backing up Caleb because I think they're taking Caleb.
I do not like Caleb Williams, but that's just me. Continue. Sorry.
No, you're good. But so I think if Marvin Harrison Jr. is there at 4, I think we take him. I think if he's not there at 4, then I really wouldn't be surprised to see us take a step back and see if we can get, Monty might be scheming whether we can get either Malik Neighbors or Rome Odunze at if we can pull off the same thing we did last year. Last year we went from 3 to 6 and got an extra first round in the process, right? And still got our guy. I wouldn't be surprised to see something similar of, go from 4 to 7 or 4 to 6, get a couple extra picks in the way that maybe you can then use again to trade up later in the draft, and still get one of those two guys.
Yeah.
I think the other talk was about, taking someone like Joe Alt, but if we just filled that tackle spot with Jonah Williams, then I think that's off the table, and we probably would be trading back and looking to target one of those other really good wide receivers from this draft class.
Looking though behind you, the Chargers, Giants, Titans, the Falcons don't really need a wide receiver. Bears, 4 of the 5 teams could use a wide receiver behind you. So it is a little, in my eyes, it'd be a little risky to fall back. Even if Harrison isn't there, I wouldn't be opposed of taking Neighbors or Odunze. Is it Odunze?
Yeah, it's Odunze.
Rome Odunze, right?
Yeah, the Washington guy at 4. They're both solid. They're both solid receivers.
Oh yeah, and I think to me that comes down to, obviously, that's just got to be the Cardinals staff has got to have a feel for who other people are looking to take and what they're hoping for, and hopefully they have a good read on do they really know that no, we can't trade back and we have to take right here, or do they have a good feel that we think these guys are actually going to take this other player and we've got a chance at it if we move back.
That kind of pick 4 to 9 range this year is really interesting because every single one of those teams needs a wide receiver and a tackle. So
the Chargers need a wide receiver now bad with Mike Williams being cut.
With Mike Williams being
well,
cut.
I mean, they still have Keenan Allen, Quentin Johnston, and Joshua Palmer, right?
I feel like someone coming out of the draft is an automatic wide receiver too on that team.
I guess that's fair.
And also, I mean, there's still a chance Keenan Allen doesn't make it to the end of free agency. I mean, they're still in a little bit of a cap situation. If they re-sign Keenan Allen, then they're back under the cap and they got to clear it before the season starts. So who knows what they're going to do. I mean, they might be able to extend Keenan Allen, but they might have to cut him or they might have to trade him, which is going to be pretty tough. So we'll see what happens with them. But, I mean, they also need a tackle pretty bad. You're saying the Cardinals, could take Joe Alt. So you get the situation where they take Joe Alt.
And that's the nice thing is that because we just filled our tackle need, right?
You're not desperate to take Joe Alt anymore.
We now have a little bit of more breathing room there, that if the indications are that some of those other teams might be looking to take a tackle, you could potentially
move up and have them take Joe Alt, and you could take maybe whoever falls to 3 or whoever falls to a 3rd receiver.
But I honestly, I'm super excited for draft night this year. I think draft night this year is going to be awesome.
The NFL so far has already been so exciting. Just free agency, half the running backs in the NFL switch teams.
On day one, all of the best running backs in the league are just fucking doing a little carousel and just who knows.
So weird.
I mean, we're gonna record a free agency after we do yours and Brady's interview. That might be like a 3-hour segment.
Oh yeah,
we might just split it up. So
just go down every single name, good or bad, rapid fire.
Yeah. 30 seconds each. All right. So with that, we were kind of talking about positions that are being filled, where you're going to go in the draft. Do you think wide receiver is the biggest need for this team?
I would say yes.
Okay.
I would say biggest needs, we definitely need a true wide receiver one. We just right now, if you look at what we have Hollywood Brown, unclear if he's even going to be with the team. I kind of hope that we let him walk.
Yeah.
Or that we trade him, he ends up somewhere else. Just looking at the cap hit involved, and the fact that we have, Hollywood Brown, Rondale Moore, Greg Dortch, we have got plenty of these guys who are a little bit smaller, really speedy and everything. And I understand that. Don't get me wrong. Hollywood Brown is a better receiver than either of those other two guys, I think. But is he that much better that he's worth how much he costs?
True.
I think that's, to me, where the question really comes into play. And then you look at, outside of that, we've got Michael Wilson, who had a pretty good rookie year, but certainly did not stand out as a wide receiver one. We have Trey McBride, right? And I think what we need right now is a guy exactly like man, if we could get Marvin Harrison Jr., he's 6'4".
Yeah.
Freak.
I mean, absolute, because that's what we don't have any guys right now who are the kind of guy where you can throw up a ball to him in the end zone and just know that 50-50 this guy's going to win the matchup.
It's not 50-50, it's like 95-5.
Well, yeah, exactly. Like, you can't throw up a 50-50 ball to him and know that he's coming down with it 90% of the time. We don't have that right now.
Yeah.
And so I think that is need number one. And then from there, I would say biggest needs become defensive. I think right now we did a little bit. We put in some work to get some depth at tackle or at D tackle.
Yeah.
But I think we need a guy on the edge who can rush.
Like a true pass rusher. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Because, like this last year we drafted BJ Ojulari, right?
Mm-hmm.
And to play, I think, like left outside linebacker for us. And he was actually okay in the pass rush, but I think like the read that I got at least was that he's a little bit more of like a smaller speed guy. He's a speed rusher, right? And I feel like when that's like your rushing threat, every team is gonna pick up on that, right?
Yeah.
But if you have an actual, a D end who is a true pass rusher, who is pulling the double team, I think that's what really opens up the lanes for some of those, guys coming in off the edge, off the outside, faster, quicker guys to come in and really make a play. So I think like not only do we just need a true pass rusher so that we have a true pass rusher, but I think also getting that piece would allow the rest of our defense to do better also. On top of just like we need to be better against the run. We were horrible against the run last year, and any pass rusher or not, like we need good D linemen. Yeah. We need good guys in the trenches on defense.
Yeah.
So I would say that is definitely need number two, and then when you look at probably corner, I would say those are probably our top positions where we really need to shore things up, and get things really patched up. But really, the whole defense needs help. So we need wide receiver and we need defense, which is so far we've signed a whole heck of a lot of defense, right, in free agency, which is why I'm happy with it.
Yeah.
So
I feel like that's a lot of the way teams are moving. You dump a bunch of money into defense, and then there's so many good offensive prospects, and then they just go on rookie contracts and do that.
Well, yeah. If we get a really good wide receiver to be a wide receiver one on a rookie contract, that's setting yourself up for that rebuild success, right?
Yeah.
You just got to follow the Mike Tomlin way. Draft, let a guy with character concerns fall to the third round. You take him, and then you trade him for something better after a couple of years, and then he blows up on that team, and you just rinse and repeat.
I don't know if it's always been this way, but maybe I'm just recognizing it more and more. Has the NFL draft always produced such good wide receivers? Like, I feel over the last 5 years, so many good wide receivers have came out.
No, because remember some of those really big busts when we were kids, Sean Oakman was the DN, but who was the wide receiver that from Baylor?
Oh yeah.
God, what was his name?
Yeah. I remember the Oklahoma State guy, Justin Blackman.
Oh, there you go. Justin Blackman. There we go. That's who I'm thinking of. Justin Blackman was supposed to be the reincarnation of Randy Moss. That's how he was hyped up to be. And just busted. Was terrible.
Over the last 5 years, I feel like there's so many good wide receivers that have come out. And even the top three this year, there could be more.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what's going on with the wide receivers nowadays.
I think it's hard for me to speak to what things were like in the past, because obviously I started watching football in the last 5 years. But I even noticed that, when I first started watching football, and 5 years ago, there was a little bit of a feel of when I was talking to Tanner and Ian and some of the other people who were kind of really, helping me understand what was going on. There were not really expectations on rookie wide receivers. There was some guy who would be like, oh, he's a rookie, probably not going to do anything. And then there was just Justin. I feel like Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase broke the whole thing.
Yeah.
They showed up and they made it clear some of these guys who are coming out of college these days who have been, I think people talk about this a lot, have been playing one-on-ones, doing the 7-on-7, just really getting into route running and all that stuff, are coming out of college these days and and they really are plug and play in the NFL. I mean, it's like you bring this guy in and he could be just like one of the best receivers in the league his first year. And I think, obviously those two guys specifically are standout talents. You're not going to get guys like Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase every year. But I think, even looking at this year, like, Zay Flowers had a really good season.
Puka Nacua.
It was a
freaking amazing
or something,
round pick.
Right, exactly. So I think what we're seeing is there is definitely that opportunity that wide receiver is a role that you can really take a guy and put him in early.
Yeah.
And similarly, I think on that same line, if we're talking about guys running one-on-ones, cornerback, I think more so than in the past, like look at Sauce Gardner. Look at this last year. Was it Brian Branch, right?
There's a couple of Seahawks guys.
Oh yeah. Devon Witherspoon, right, was one of them. There have been some. We've been seeing that. I think in those skill positions, corners and wide receivers, we're starting to see that some of these guys coming out of college really can just play at the highest level in the NFL right off the bat.
Baseball.
Yeah, no, they're just good.
And I think scouts are also getting better at realizing who is like a true number one, because I just went to go look at the 2020 draft class again, and Justin Jefferson was the 5th wide receiver off the board.
Mm-hmm.
The people who went before him were Henry Ruggs, Jerry Jeudy, CeeDee Lamb, Jalen Reagor. So the only one that you could really
Lamb.
Cowboys are happy with CeeDee Lamb. Maybe they would have preferred a Justin Jefferson, but you can't be too upset about that.
Henry Ruggs was supposed to be pretty good.
But those other 3 teams, you're pretty upset that you didn't take Justin Jefferson. Especially
you wouldn't want Jerry Jeudy over Justin Jefferson? Come on.
Honestly, Jerry Jeudy wasn't horrible.
He hasn't been bad. He hasn't been that bad.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be mad at drafting Jerry Jeudy. I'd be mad at the whole Russell Wilson thing more than Jerry Jeudy.
Well, I mean, if you're an Eagles fan, you're livid. I mean, you took Jalen Reagor a pick before Justin Jefferson.
And they traded up for that.
And they traded up above.
Oh my god.
Oh my god. What's Jalen Reagor doing? Is he playing in the UFL or? I mean, the Patriots wide receiver core might as well be a UFL team.
True.
I mean, he is.
Here's a quick hypothetical, real quick, for the draft before we go into least needed position. If the Bengals were to offer you T. Higgins in their first for the 4th, what are you saying? And maybe throw in a 5th or something, 4th or 5th.
I'm saying probably no.
All right, I was just curious.
I like the look, and don't get me wrong, I'd be very happy to have T. Higgins on my team. But if the assumption is that we're taking MHJ at that pick,
at 4, yeah,
you're not taking T. Higgins.
I think you want to gamble on the fact that if he is as good as he's supposed to be, he's better than T. Higgins, and you're getting him a lot cheaper than you're getting T. Higgins. And I think that right now, when you're looking at, we're trying to build a team that still probably isn't going to win this year. It might, isn't going, for contention, isn't, maybe we'll scrape into the playoffs if you're really optimistic. I think you're going for the guy who you can keep on your team for the next 4 years and who's going to be producing for the next 4 years at rookie contract.
No, yeah. And then you get a 5th-year option anyways.
Yeah, exactly.
I assumed the answer was no. I was just curious.
Yeah, you were just feeling it out.
Yeah, maybe
you gotta feel it. Yeah, you gotta. Usually when I'm talking to Conrad with the trades, it usually lands. So it was a good look.
Hey, that's fantasy. That's a whole different ball game. All right.
Fantasy's different, but all right. But you kind of touched on it a little bit earlier. I assume your answer might be the same. But what is your team's least needed positional upgrade?
I guess you mentioned I think quarterback. I think we're at the point where we've got the guy, we're paying him. I think the other real answer is running back.
Yeah.
I think if you look, I'm really happy with James Conner. I think James Conner is doing a fantastic job. I think he's got the right attitude. He runs hard. He is a good pass catching back also. He's everything that we want out of a running back.
Mm-hmm.
And then, depth behind him. We recently, last year, we signed Michael Carter from the Jets, who I don't know that I think is amazing, but I think is a pretty solid, reasonable RB2 to have, especially as a change up, maybe, as a guy who's running some of those, more I don't know, screen passes, all that stuff. And then we just signed DJ Dallas from the Seahawks also, who is
The GOAT.
yeah, the GOAT DJ Dallas.
He's a pretty solid 2-3 running back.
Exactly. That's what I'm thinking. He's got special team upside. So I really don't see any reason why we would be looking even remotely in the direction of running backs right now.
Yeah.
And plus, with James Conner, you're only one person removed from have taken a shot with James Conner. So
yeah.
I told you that story, right, Danny? Me and Sean, we went to a bar in Southside and we took a shot with James Conner.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
That's funny. Nice.
Yeah, only NFL player I met in person.
Nice.
Just randomly at a bar.
I was at a Bengals. It was actually the Bengals-Steelers playoff game in 2015. We were tailgating, and like 7 Reds players pulled up next to us and started tailgating.
Ooh. Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
That's fun.
Real random.
All right. Well, we'll get back to what we need to be talking about. What is
Any famous person you met? No.
Yeah, right. Actually, Conrad has met a couple of when you were in Houston.
Oh, I met some NBA players.
Oh, that's sweet.
I was, as all cool kids, I was in Houston for Overwatch, the video game Overwatch. I played on the University of Utah Overwatch team, and we were one of the best teams in the country, at least collegiate teams. So we went to the finals, where we took second place, and while we were there was when the Golden State Warriors were playing the Rockets in the playoffs, and we were staying in the same hotel as the Warriors. So we kind of like, we saw I think KD a couple times in the lobby, and I had one moment where I was like in an elevator, and some guy gets on the elevator with me, and I kind of look over at him. He's like, "What's up?" I was like, "What's up?" And then like he gets off the elevator, and I text like, "I think I was just in an elevator with Steph Curry." Like, I don't know, like I'm pretty sure that was Steph Curry. And then we looked it up. It's like, yep, they're definitely staying in this hotel. They're here for the playoffs. That was definitely, so it's like, okay.
He probably got off the elevator and was like, "Thank God he didn't ask me for an autograph."
I recognized him. I knew who it was, but I also was just like, I don't know. Yeah.
Awesome. All right. So, what does success look like for the Cardinals this upcoming season?
I think realistically, success looks like just improvement on last year. Take a draft, kind of make sure that we don't have any huge draft blunders. Make sure we draft some good players, and then we take that and we go out on the field and, win the games that we're supposed to win, and look good against the teams that we're losing to. And if we come out of this season with, let's say, 7 wins this year, right? If we come out 7 wins or 8 wins, maybe, I'm thinking like, I don't even have expectations we get to the playoffs, but let's be at some point in contention for the playoffs. Let's end the season maybe a couple of games out from the playoffs with like, oh, if something had gone different in this game, maybe we could have made it, right? And if we can do that, and we can have reports keep coming out that the locker room things are good, that good relationships between the coach and the players, and seems like guys are playing hard for the team, I would be very happy. So I think that's probably expectations right now. And just be fun to watch. That's also all I want. Like, fun to watch.
Yeah, just don't be unbearable.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so you're kind of predicting like somewhere 6 to 9 wins. That would be pretty satisfying as a Cardinals fan to be in that range.
I think 6 wins, I would be a little disappointed.
Maybe closer to 8 or 9.
Yeah, 7. Let's say 7 to 9. 7 to 9 wins. Really, seven wins is what I want, and anything above that is bonus. Is just happy candy time. Like just get a little extra fun along the way. But yeah. I don't think I have any like expectations beyond that.
Awesome. All right, well then I have the last question to wrap us up. So the NFC West is a loaded division, as we were talking about. I mean, the Seahawks were a game out from making the playoffs. The Rams made the playoffs. The 49ers went to the Super Bowl. They're all playoff caliber teams. They're all looking really good. Which of these teams do you feel like the Cardinals could realistically leapfrog coming up in the next season?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. I mean, like this is part of why I'm hoping for 7 wins next season is it's hard to say if you're playing the fucking 49ers twice and the Rams twice. It's hard to say that you're going to come out of that season with 10 wins or 12. It's like on top of whoever else you're playing, you're in a tough division. And even the Seahawks I think are also a really solid team. But I would say, to me, the clear standout for who we have a chance to leapfrog is the Seahawks. Okay. I think looking at things like one, just last year they were the worst of those 3 teams. Objectively, like last year, the order was the 49ers, Rams, Seahawks, and then us, right? So they were the 3rd best team in the division last year, so they're kind of makes them the clear favorite.
Number 3, yeah.
I think looking beyond that, the Seahawks right now, as far as I can tell, are in it's a little unclear what's going on. They made the coaching change, right? Pete Carroll is unclear to me if he's like advising or still somewhat involved, but he's not the head coach anymore. They haven't been making a bunch of free agency moves as far as I can tell. Like I haven't seen any big signings from them. If anything, they've lost some players. I don't think they're, it doesn't seem like there's anything going on right now that would tell me that they're likely to be much better next year than they were this year. And maybe I'm wrong. Obviously, they've certainly done very well on drafting the last couple of years, right? Whoever's drafting over there, if you look at the fact they took some corners, like they had like Witherspoon, right? They last year they drafted JSN, who was a clear win as far as I'm concerned in the draft. So they're clearly making good plays in the draft, which is always scary because it always means that they might draft some guys this year who are game changers. But and especially look at like even last year, our final game of the season, was as at least while they were still playing that game, I think as far as I know, the Seahawks were still trying to win that game because they thought it might impact their playoff chances.
Yeah, stuff fell the right way that would have.
Yeah, and they won the game, but like
7 teams lost.
Yeah, well, but also they won the game because Matt Prater, our super reliable kicker, missed 2 field goals. Like we had 2 times where we made the play, got the ball in field goal range, and he missed. And a bunch of fans, I don't really think this is true. I think he was trying to make them, and he just kind of got on like he missed. But like, a lot of fans are happy. A lot of fans are saying, "Thank God Matt Prater knows we're trying to draft Marvin Harrison Jr." Right? Like, but I think the way that game played out, Seattle. I don't think you can look at that game and say that Seattle was the better team on the field, right? Or like Seattle played better than us that game.
Yeah.
And what I'm seeing is that we're making a whole bunch of changes to try to improve our roster, and they haven't really made any. And they have the flux of a new head coach. So I would say, I don't really have a ton of faith that we're suddenly going to be better than the Rams or the 49ers this year. I'm actually cautiously optimistic that I think there's a pretty decent chance that we end up 3rd in our division this year.
Yeah,
that'd be sweet. All right. Well, like I said, that's pretty much all we had for you today. So we appreciate you coming on, Conrad. It was definitely a lot of fun. This episode's going to be great because I think we went an hour with Tyler as well. So it's going to be a long one. Jordan's not going to be happy, but
maybe we'll split it into 2. We can do like a Tuesday, Thursday release.
Yeah, something like that. We'll figure it out. Regardless, but it was a really good time. We appreciate your time, Conrad, and best of luck to the Cardinals next year.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah.
Well, I like school, and I like football, and I'm gonna keep doing them both because they make me feel good.